the least interesting thing you can do in a film is find somebody who's interesting and mysterious and ask them to explain themselves.
Realm of Satan is a documentary about Satanists, but it's like few docs you've ever seen before, presenting gorgeously composed and shot images of its subjects' day-to-day life. We spoke to the director of the film about the choice not to interview his subjects, 60-foot-tall statues, and how to work big set pieces into a documentary.
My name is Scott Cummings. I'm the director of Realm of Satan, which is premiering here at Sundance 2024. I grew up in a small town, Catholic, kind of normal working class, and I discovered all kind of, heavy metal, Dungeons and Dragons, all your typical kind of nerdy things when I was a teenager in the 80s. And in the 80s, all that stuff was kind of associated with Satanism. There was a lot of Satanism on talk shows and on the news, and they were like, play records backwards and look for secret messages. I mean, it was like a really bizarre obsession. Like the New Kids on the Block had satanic messages in there. People really thought that. And, I knew some of these people from talk shows, from like Sally Jesse Raphael and like Montel Williams and stuff. It just kind of stuck and floated around in my head for years, and I wanted to make something like provocative, and their name just kind of manifested to me out of the universe. I don't know, and I just started kind of diving into them, and I'd always wanted to read the Satanic Bible, so it was kind of an excuse too. But there's a couple reasons. One is I look at the film like a ritual. So I want people to feel like they're in a ritual while they're watching the film. In a ritual, you would never talk. So no one would ever be like, this is why we're doing the ritual. This is like, you just do the ritual. It's an experience. And then on top of that, like, there have been a lot of documentaries for 50 years about the Church of Satan, actually, that are very, it's just all the information's out there. And it's like, the least interesting thing you can do in a film is find somebody like who's interesting and mysterious and ask them to explain themselves. So like in a way it's like a film about mystery and not knowing and like not giving information. And obviously we live in 2024 now, and you can find out anything in like 10 seconds. So I don't know why you need to have films that like explain things to people. Like just go on Wikipedia. We take a lot of time, actually, and because we do most scenes are done in one shot, so we'll go to somebody's house and work with them and spend hours just setting up a shot. In a typical independent film, you'd rush to get the close-ups, rush to get the mediums, rush to get a two-shot, and it's kind of like this process. We were like, no, that, we're gonna just concentrate on like making like kind of shots you could like luxuriate in or like eat, you know what I mean? And so if it takes 5 hours to get one shot or longer, we'll do it. We'll wait hours for the light. It's really like about taking time to like really craft something instead of kind of, a lot of films have to rush to get things, but they kind of lose, films are visual, and they need to be overwhelmingly visual, I think. One of my favorite things that we discovered was there's a member who lives in the UK, and we went to shoot with him, and he lives in kind of an amazing Gothic castle that we stayed in, and he has a 60-foot tall statue of Pan on his lawn with a penis, and it's like totally crazy and amazing. I mean, it was like, it's hard to even explain what that's like to see in real life, because it's just like, wow, that's a 60-foot tall statue of Pan. That's X-rated also. So one of my kind of like tricks is like you can shoot things that are really, really cheap and easy, and like people will be like, oh, I could do that. And then you throw in like a couple like big set pieces like that, and it kind of like makes people have to look at the rest of the film in a different way, like where the set piece is just like, holy shit. So that was always in the cards. There was going to be a BDSM scene because the particular Satanist there is a BDSM fetish film director. I approached him and we kind of talked about it. And basically the deal was like, hey, if you do this scene for me, you can shoot your own scene for you and sell it on Clips for Sale. Both Gerald and I were kind of obsessed with this Finnish photographer who does all these like very black portraits. And we got very into the idea of like black leather and black. like black on black. The whole idea of this scene was basically the only color is people's genitals. It just kept evolving, you know. It would be like, oh, Satanists are traditionally, you know, in the history of the Church of Satan, Anton LaVey, the founder, had a room called the Den of Iniquity that he populated with mannequins that he would kind of talk to. And so that kind of started us on this like mannequin thing. And it was like, let's put mannequins in this. And then it's like an orgy because there's mannequins and everybody's in all black. And I don't know, just, yeah. I also pulled a lot of inspiration from, in the 70s, there were these amazing witchcraft magazines that were also like kind of men's magazines, so they'd be like really sexually explicit. You know, there would always be like satanic or witchy rituals because it's like an excuse for like a threesome. So we were kind of pulling influence from a lot of these old photos from the 70s. With the film, I wanted to like really flatten the idea of mundanity and magic and fantasy and reality and not prioritize either. So for some people, this is their reality. They choose to live in a reality where, you know, magic is as real as drinking coffee. And I wanted those things to be presented in a way that was just as offhand as somebody like washing dishes. You know, we all love horror movies. We all love old horror movies. And we all had this kind of like universal horror influence, I think, especially like Lon Chaney and like The Wolfman and like really simple practical effects, and like kind of wanted to lean into it. And also like the last thing, I guess, is I really like to push against the idea of what like a nonfiction film is and kind of like middle finger a little bit to people. And this is just like totally unacceptable, I think, for a normal nonfiction person. So I you know, that's why I did it, essentially. You know, it's like, it shouldn't happen, so it has to happen, actually.